You ready to go? Good evening, everyone, board members, guests in the audience. Welcome to the October 26, 2015 Williamson County School Board meeting. I'd ask board members to please record your attendance on the board that you're present. Okay, thank you. Everyone's here this evening. The first thing on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to, first of all, thank Deputy Ron Hooper and Deputy Eddie Gully for being with us this evening, and I would like to do something a little different. Board members, I'd like to ask Deputy Hooper to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and thank him for his service and Mr. Gully's service to our community. So if you'd please come forward and lead everyone in the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Also like to welcome our Boy Scout troop from Brentwood High School is with us this evening. If y'all would stand so we can recognize you. Thank you. See, either you are an excellent representative or you have a very small troop. All right, the first thing we have on our agenda this evening after the pledge is the approval of the agenda. We have one item that has been requested to be pulled off the agenda this evening. Dr. Burgos has requested that new item, Business G, the proposed Religious Liberty and Protection Resolution, be pulled from the agenda, so the board will not be voting on that item this evening. Do we have a motion to accept the agenda? Motion from Ms. Emerson. Second by Dr. Burgos. Do we use the machine or you want us to do just regular vote? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes. All right, when we approve the agenda, we approve some items on our consent agenda, and they are the approval of the September 21, 2015 school board meeting minutes, the approval of the board policy revisions on second reading, 4.6052 student schedules, 5.117 non-tenure and tenure, board policy 5.403 drug-free workplace, and board policy 6.600 student records. We also have recommendations for field trip fee requests and the budget timeline for the 2016-2017 budget. Approve the Brentwood United Methodist Church lease agreement at Sunset Middle School. We approve the Centennial High School renovation of teen living area, turning it into a TV broadcast classroom and studio. And we approve the Centennial High School baseball field replacement and construction of a new home run fence. And the approval of the Nolensville High School construction of the retaining wall. Next item is public comment. Board members, this evening we have 16 people who have requested to speak. The note on top of this says 10 speakers, maximum of 3. I am inclined to allow all 16 to speak and just make it 2 minutes if everyone's in agreement with that. Give people 2 minutes to speak. That way everyone will still have a chance to speak to us. If we're okay with that, then we'll proceed. All right, the first speaker is Lori, and is it Besh? Step forward, please. Please come up to the microphone so people can hear. I'm sorry.
My name is Lori Besh. I have 4 children who went through Williamson County Schools and now have 6 grandchildren who someday will be in the Williamson County Schools. And I thought we were going to be talking about possibly textbooks, and that's why I'm here as a taxpayer at this point. I have more question because I have heard some things about some things that are in the textbooks, but not having any children in the schools right now, I have not seen any of them. But my question is, I had heard that parents were not involved in the choosing of the textbooks, and I wanted to know if that is par for the course, if that is normal, and if there is an opportunity for parents to be part of that process.
Okay, if we could get Dr. Looney, if you could respond to her through an email or some kind of written response to her about that particular thing, about the process that the state of Tennessee uses for the selection of textbooks, and that will get you an answer for that, ma'am. Thank you. Next person is Conor Carroll.
Hello, my name's Conor Carroll. I go to Brentwood High School, but I have a quick point of information. I was outside of the room. Did y'all just vote to pull the resolution? Is that like what happened?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I'll rephrase my speech. Okay, my name's Conor Carroll. I go to Brentwood High School. I'm a junior. I'm the editor-in-chief of our literary magazine. I'm the opinions editor of our newspaper. I'm on our debate team, and I'm top 15% of my class with a 4.35 GPA, and I say all of that to tell you that I care about my education, that my education is the most important thing to me because it's a path to my future. And here's what I'd like to tell you about the resolution that you thankfully just decided to pull. That resolution is extremely dangerous for our future students, and I'll tell you why. This summer, past summer, I went to Stanford University and took 2 courses. I ended up getting an A and loved my professors. I'm still talking to him. And one of my professors there told me that he, as a professor at Stanford University, knows about Williamson County schools, knows about the recent movement that's been happening in Williamson County schools, including this resolution, and that it's dangerous and it's destructive and it's driving our curriculum away from an objective point of view and towards things that are extremely dangerous. He told me that admissions officers all across California schools, all across in Stanford, are all agreeing that it's more difficult to look at students from a system that is moving towards a curriculum and moving towards a philosophy in the classroom that is Islamophobic and is anti-Islam. That is what he told me. And I'm here to be a mouthpiece for that. Then, I called Harvard University's admissions office. I asked them to send me to their Southeastern director office. They set me up with an officer, and that officer told me they know about the Williamson County school system, they know where it's going, and they think that we won't be prepared for school at their university if we keep going down that path. So I just want to thank everyone who voted to pull that resolution, and I want to thank you for allowing me to pave a path for myself and allowing me not to have hurdles to jump in the admissions process. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jenny Oats.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I'm Jenny Oats, and I reside at 2801 Manning Lane in Franklin, Tennessee. And I have a 2nd grader and a 5th grader in Oakview Elementary and a 7th grader at Heritage Middle School, And I'm coming to you today to specifically request that you hear parents like myself with very real concerns about the textbooks, about the curriculum in Williamson County Public School, and then act according to our children's best interest. And I don't believe that I'm alone as a parent who is concerned about the curriculum, and I'm here today to ask that you listen to our concerns and that you notice that we are here. And I did feel alone until I was connected with Dr. Burgos through mutual friends who encouraged me to come today and just share with you some of my experience. And Mr. Chairman, my main concern is twofold. First, as a parent with children in the public education system, I, along with other parents, feel that we have not had the opportunity to look at the textbooks and to have a voice in our children's curriculum. Changes can be made without our knowledge. As I discovered looking at my daughter's textbook and seeing that it was a 2015 printing of her social studies book. And as parents, I feel like we are left simply to trust the powers that be who make the decisions on the curriculum. And when we disagree with the final product, My experience recently has been that those concerns were downplayed and dismissed and silenced, which I don't believe is because anybody was trying to be ugly or rude or unkind, but because their hands have been tied by the powers above. My second and greatest concern, though, is that specifically the 7th grade social studies textbook largely misrepresents what Islam truly is about, and that a good portion of the book is devoted to outlining the religion and religious beliefs of Islam, not just the culture and the history, which is what the class is. Furthermore, these beliefs are stated as facts to be accepted by all, not merely as beliefs of one particular culture. And as our current textbook stands, it reads more like a religion class than a history or social studies class based on how the information is presented. I want the record to show that I'm not standing before you today to say I wish for my children to never be exposed to or have knowledge of Islam and what it is. These concerns I share don't come from a place of anger or dislike towards any person or any specific group. Rather, I am okay for them to learn about Islam as a culture and historical facts if they get the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And furthermore, our textbooks, they're filled with half-truths. They're whitewashing what it really is and painting peacefully a religion that has openly stated that is not what they stand for, that their successes have come through brutality and violence, not through peace. And that is what our children are being led to believe through these textbooks. So I'm concerned that my daughter's having to fill in the blank, state things in class or read things in class, and is being fed a false narrative void of the full picture. Our children should have the right to hear of all religions and all beliefs, but only if it's the truth and the whole truth,
Thank
not
you, Ms.
glossing
Oates.
over. Thank you very much for your time.
Our next speaker is Makhaya Oats.
Mr. Chairman and members of the school board, my name is Makhaya Oats and I live at 2801 Manning Lane, Franklin, Tennessee. I attend Heritage Middle School and I'm almost 13 years old. Thank you for listening to my concerns today. I just want to bring to light an issue I feel needs to be called out. I myself am very concerned of my social studies textbook and the information I and my peers are being required to learn. But please note that history is my favorite subject and I adore my teacher. She's amazing. As an avid reader, I have devoured history and biography books for years. This is how I'm able to spot, in my history textbook, errors and half-truths. One specifically is that I'm being taught in class that Islam is a peaceful religion, yet there are many historical and modern-day examples of violent killings and persecution in the name of Allah and Islam. Another concern is that when I talk about my religious beliefs at school, yet my history book is predominantly filled with religious beliefs of one main religion that is open about their intolerance of anyone who believes differently than them. I want it to know that I don't hate anyone, though. I ride to school every day with a Muslim girl and her mom in my neighborhood. I also care about my friends and my country. That is why I'm sharing this with you. Ever since I was young, though, my parents have taught to me about speaking the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. And I believe our judicial system runs on that same foundation as well, or at least it's supposed to. My school and education is not providing that, though, I feel like. So my request to you, Mr. Chairman, is that as an adult in my life who is called to protect and guard, even in the educational realm, that you would take an honest look at the curriculum and be willing to stand for truth in our education. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Julie Hinton.
Hi, Mr. Chairman and school board members. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Julie Hinton, and I live at 1005 Fair Street in Franklin. I'm in the district of Mr. Mark Gregory. I wanted to speak briefly. I sent a letter to all of you last week, and I heard back from about 3 of you, so I wasn't positive that everyone had seen it or acknowledged the information that it contains. And I just wanted to clarify this for the record. Some of the information that was presented at the work session 2 weeks ago, I guess it wasn't last Thursday, the week before, were presented as if they were the facts about the social studies curriculum and the standards as well as the pages in the textbook. One of the board members presented this number of standards as well as the number of pages dedicated to each religion. It sounded very imbalanced, and that was her argument, that there was more emphasis placed on the Islamic religion than there was on others. So I returned home and looked up those standards myself. I also talked to some friends who had access to the online textbooks, so I took a look at those and spent the weekend reviewing that information. What I found was that the data that was presented was inaccurate by the school board member. For example, I'll quote a few of the actual statistics. So she mentioned that there were 53 pages dedicated to Judaism, and I found only about 25. She said there were 6 standards on Judaism, and I found 7. Not a big difference in terms of standards, but certainly a big difference in terms of the number of pages. On Islam, it was a little more similar. She had 35 pages on Islam, and I had 35, she had 32. Backwards, sorry, the other way around, but anyway, they were close. She had 10 standards, I found 11 standards on Islam in the state requirements. Christianity was the biggest difference, though, and it seemed the thought is that there is some kind of slight given to the Christian religion. She said there were only 26 pages dedicated to Christianity, and I found there were 119 between 6th and 7th grade. She said there was only 1 standard, and I found that there were 13 standards dedicated to that religion. So I just wanted to set the record straight on that. I'm sure we'll have more discussions on this topic. I'm sure the resolution will come back around. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Elaine Rosencrantz. You need to?
Hi, my name is Elaine Rosencrantz, and until May, I taught English in Williamson County Schools since 2004. My primary course was 11th grade English language and composition, and the ongoing overreach and intrusion into my classroom ultimately served as the reason why I left. I'm here today to speak on behalf of the thousands of teachers who feel silenced out of fear. If I'm being honest, I'm grateful that I made the choice to leave when I did, though I miss teaching students every single day. If we claim to be a democracy, we must uphold those ideals which differ from our own. We cannot fight intolerance with intolerance. To tolerate or learn about a religion does not diminish our own if ours is indeed well-founded and true. It's asinine to think that to simply regurgitate a culture's main tenets is a systemic indoctrination of their faith. Not only does that severely misconstrue that faith's ideals, but to believe that it has any bearing on our own highlights the weakness in our own beliefs. When we play this tape out, we set the stage for a scenario worthy of a dystopian plot. Where do we draw the line? Will the novels be next if they don't promote nationalistic and Christian ideals? How do we learn to engage with others from different walks of life if we know nothing of them? I would say more importantly, though, we rob students of the opportunity to think, challenge, and solidify their own beliefs and ideas when we censor the information to which they have access. History has shown us before what happens when we limit information and education based on fears and ill-founded logic. My juniors will easily tell you the ramifications as evidenced in the McCarthy era, though this time we are substituting the boogeyman of communism for Islam. I ask you all, how much time have you spent in classrooms this year? Not for photo ops or recognitions, but genuinely from a place of understanding what curriculum implementation looks like. I beg of you, stop creating problems where none exist. Our field is full of issues, most importantly, the overbearing presence of testing and a lack of teacher autonomy in curriculum design. Our students need us to challenge them and inspire them, and this cannot happen when a system of teachers is fearful of being recorded or punished for speaking out. I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me this year thinking of leaving and wanting to know what's it like on the other side. They believe that you don't trust them as professionals, and I agree. Parents don't have input on textbooks because that's our job as experts in the field, and if this continues, you will lose us in droves. We did not earn multiple advanced degrees and licenses to have those with no real educational experience dictate what we teach, or a government who treats students as data points on a graph rather than the curious, malleable intellectuals they are tell us what to do.
Ms. Rosencrantz, please wrap up.
Please return to some common sense. Let me be the last good teacher to leave this system. and let's make decisions based on facts rather than fear. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lori Cardozo Moore.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman. My name is Lori Cardozo Moore, and I am a parent in Williamson County. I live at 1858 Wilson Pike. And Dr. Burgos, I want to thank you for introducing the resolution. I know that you had to pull it tonight, but I'm here to speak on behalf of the resolution. Because like Dr. Burgos and many other parents across this county, we are deeply concerned about the education of our children, especially the content that is in the textbooks. I'm no stranger to this committee. You've heard me come over and over talking about the content in the textbooks. The last time I was here, it was because we found an anti-Semitic quote in a Pearson textbook. When I tried to come back before the board, the opportunity was taken from me to be able to present to all of you some more findings that I found in the textbooks. Not just me, but there were parents and educators and professionals from across the state who reviewed and evaluated these social studies and history textbooks. We presented over 700 pages of documentation to the school board, to the Tennessee Textbook Commission, communicating to them our concerns. Not only were there historical inaccuracies and biases and values that do not reflect our own or the founding of this country, but we also found texts that were favoring the establishment of one religion over all others, Islam. We are asking you to please reevaluate these textbooks. We are deeply concerned. We have no problem teaching Islam. When I was taught about Islam, when I was in high school, I learned about Islam and Catholicism as being the religions of Indonesia. I did not learn how to. I did not make a prayer mat. I didn't pray the rosary beads either. So I'm asking you once again, representing many parents across this county and this state, to please reconsider these textbooks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Gary Graham.
Hi, I'm Gary Graham. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board members, Dr. Looney, and staff. I have a little solution for your history book problems. Just don't teach any religion. Therefore, we have hundreds of churches in this county, and the parents can send their children to church if they want to or not. They can learn it about there. It's sad that the state of this country has come to, that the religion freedom is under attack, but you heard both views. It's sad to hear the young man talk the way he did, because that's the liberal view. I'm a conservative. So there's a lot of difference here. And I'm not Islamophobic or anything, but there is a lot of talk. And I've been to the state capitol, been to hearings with the school board textbook. I've been involved in it. So I don't know a whole lot about it, but I have been involved in it. I've been to classes and stuff and what they're teaching at school. So I don't know if it's a standard, if it has to be. I know the state says we can set our own standards or do our own thing somewhat here in our local school districts. And if we just didn't teach any religion, you wouldn't have any problems at all. And I think the parents could do that. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Chuck Shelton.
I'd like to defer my time to Cindy Miller.
Okay, Mr. Shelton is canceling his time. I'm sorry, Ms. Mill, can we go in order, please? Because are you on here?
He was deferring. Is that not okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't see your name in another place. Board members, are you okay with her speaking to us in his place? Okay, Ma'am, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Cindy Miller. I'm a resident of Brentwood. And I'm speaking to United in regard to the resolution. I realize it's been pulled, but I am in support of the resolution. Islam is political and it's religious, and it's a religion. It's both. And it's hard to separate the two. I understand it's a difficult task to teach Islam and not teach religion. But history should never teach children to how to kneel or pray or to recite the Shahada. In the Islam religion, the Shahada is actually the conversion prayer, just much like, we have our baptism and we convert or accept Christ. The children would not be expected to recite Our Father, the Lord's Prayer. And I just think that because of the lack of oversight that can be had, especially with the computers, that the resources that the children have, I just want to voice my concern that in Islam, it's political and religious, and it's hard to separate the two, and it makes it a really hard task for you all to monitor that and make sure, and it's hard as parents to monitor that. I would like to see the students in Williamson County not get a one-sided biased view, and I'm not seeking to, I'm not an Islamophobe. I'm not seeking to tarnish Islam, but I don't think it should be sugar-coated either. If the truth is too traumatic, then it just shouldn't be taught at all. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Jennifer Alvey.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Alvey, and I live in Mr. Gregory's district.
Hi.
It's really strange to be up here and not sitting and tweeting the board meeting like I usually do. But I wanted to point out a couple of things about this resolution because I have a feeling it may come back, and these points are beyond the idea of Islam and what exactly we teach. The board's agreed that local control of education is really important. But for the life of me, I can't figure out what about this resolution is local. No one can really document an unresolved complaint about the way that the schools here have taught religion and history until just tonight, maybe. And we know that a lot of the language of this resolution has been taken from a similar one in California. It's a political issue. It's the junk food that this board has spent far too much time last year binging on, and it needs to stop. In contrast, WCS is facing a number of real and pressing issues right now. Buses continue to be a huge problem for many families, and they have complained a lot. We need more work there. And the bus issue relates to the biggest and potentially most overwhelming issue for this district, growth. I'm glad the board met with the county commission on that, but there's a lot more work to be done. It's a huge issue. And let me point out that the board has spent roughly this much time on 0 minutes, on any of Dr. Looney's 6 big ideas, and a lot of those relate to growth. These are the homegrown issues of Williamson County schools. They sprang up here, and they aren't something that some other group is touting to make money. At the work session, Mr. Cash asked, well, we always hear about the buses. Why can't we make a statement about this? Mr. Chairman, when the board has actually spent the time it needs to addressing our homegrown issues of growth and buses, hey, by all means, eat your political junk food, but not before then.
Thank you. Next speaker, Stephen Morkel, or is it Morkel?
Hello, my name is Stephen Morkel. I live on 456 Pierre Springs Way. Even though this topic was pulled from the agenda, I still find it important to discuss. I am currently youngest of 3 children, and 2 of my sisters took the same social studies class I'm here to discuss today. They would be here tonight. However, one is at the University of Kentucky, and my other sister has too much homework. AP Chemistry is really a bear. I am currently enrolled in 8th grade at Hillsborough Elementary Middle School, participating in tennis and band. Last year, in 7th grade, I took world history, involving world religions and how they affected our history as a whole. I learned about Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Judaism, Confucianism, and Islam. While focusing on a certain religion, we learned about their values, history, inventions, and how they affected our world. 7th grade social studies does not speak about the Holocaust. It focused on ancient civilizations, not covering any events in the past 500 years. Our studies ended around the time of the discovery of the New World. 7th grade, rather than focusing on the aspect of religion, more focuses on the impact on the world and society of that time. When learning about Buddhism, yes, our class learned about the religion and their ideals. However, we learned about the impact of these shift in ideals, more focusing on the new policy and change brought forth by this new religion on the country and government as a whole. Islam is another topic addressed during my time in 7th grade. When learning about Islam, we learned about religious teachings and about more secular matters, such as their inventions, the creation of algebra, and more temporal teachings, such as discipline and mannerisms. These teachings involve zero action or mention of any Muslim prayers. No matter how great my social studies teacher was, Mr. Stangy wasn't trying to indoctrinate us into Muslim or any other religion. He was there to educate us. Last year, social studies and all my other classes were a real joy, and I truly value what great things my teachers have taught me. Thank you, Dr. Looney and the school board, for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Victor Andrews, next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the opportunity to debate this issue. Appreciate the opportunity to hear from you all. I do want to say that I rise in support of that amendment, proposed Religious Liberty Protection Resolution. I appreciate Dr. Burgos bringing that to our attention. I am a lifelong Williamson Countian, born and raised here, educated here, 5 generations. I would like to tell you that there are people out there like me who, evident tonight, that would support a resolution such as this. And mostly, for me, it is because I believe Mr. Kyle Mallory, Teacher of the Year in Tennessee in 2014, said this: the new social studies standards are not appropriate for 7th grade. They're just flat out inappropriate. And I would tell you this: I appreciate debate, Mr. Chairman. I do not appreciate politicians who would prefer that we move out because we disagree with him. And I think that's an offense. I took offense to it. I took offense to the statement. And I appreciate your time, though. I appreciate this debate, and I hope it comes back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Drew Taylor.
Good evening. My name is Drew Taylor. I reside at 3889 Ballinger Drive in Nolensville, Tennessee, and I represent both the students of Williamson County Schools and the voting members of the Williamson County public. I'm here to oppose the resolution regarding the role of religion within our schools. Nowhere is the phrase, "if it ain't broke, don't fix it," more true than in government. This resolution addresses and overreacts to a problem that simply does not exist. I have personally been taught through the curriculum in question, and I can attest to its historical and factual nature, as other speakers inside the school system have been able to come up here and tell you. What I can tell you is that there is not a pro-Islamic bias. There is not an anti-Judeo-Christian bias. There is not an anti-conservative or pro-liberal bias. These things are simply untrue. I'm a Christian. I agree with the resolution in stating that I do not believe that the role of the school system is to indoctrinate people in religious or ideological matters, whether those be Islamic, socialist, Christian, or otherwise. In my view, the public schools don't need to help in this area. The thing that the public schools need to do is educate the population about the world that exists around them. The resolution in question seems to believe that terrorists are invading our schools, indoctrinating our children, and creating a problem out of something that simply does not exist. There should not be alarm bells going off about Islamic indoctrination, because all that does is tell the outside world that we have a problem that we simply do not have. Passing this resolution will not eliminate any bias. It will serve as a false alarm that drives people away from our community. The only way to be legitimately fair is to document the beliefs and foundations of major religions without further comment, as happens today. I believe it's clear. There are problems that our school system faces. We're overcrowded. We don't have enough buses. We need to be able to make sure we're ready to prepare for the growth that's coming ahead of us. But this thing is not something that's broken. Our system as it exists isn't broke. So please don't try and fix it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mark Adams.
Chairman Anderson, board members, fellow citizens, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Mark Adams. I live with my family in District 7. I have 3 children, 2 recent graduates of Brentwood High and 1 still going there. First of all, I would like to preface my remarks by saying that I mean no disrespect to any religion or believer. There is no God but God. Muhammad is the messenger of God. Can I see a show of hands of those who were just indoctrinated into Islam? Islam is the second largest religion in the world with over 1 billion followers. Over 1,000 of our fellow law-abiding residents of Williamson County are included. I'm sure they would welcome you with more love and respect than what we Christians have shown them. Here's a sampling of some of the statements from those Christian voices about the new history textbook covering post-Roman time to the exploration of the Americas. It doesn't report 9/11, ISIS. It doesn't talk about Islamic terrorist groups. And the textbook explains how to convert to Islam, but not to Christianity. We just experienced that supposed conversion. Here's another hyperbole. The New World History textbooks distributed this year to 7th graders pose a danger to all Tennesseans. All it takes is one 7th grader to go home and recite the 5 pillars of Islam, then go to a school with a bomb in their backpack and blow up 10 kids. What was it in Chattanooga just a couple of months ago where one kid came right out of high school and shot 5 of our military? Thankfully tonight the voting was postponed, but it will come back. It was titled Williamson County Religious Liberty and Protection Resolution. The claims of Islamic indoctrination that I just described have now been couched in more politically correct language. Religious liberty and protection, a phrase just as disingenuous as Citizens United or right to work. The singling out of this brief 7th grade historical study of Islam as indoctrination has no place in a rational discourse of the Tennessee Social Studies curriculum. I prefer the call for calm published in the Tennessean last week. School is neither the church nor the mosque, and it shouldn't be. It should be a place to learn, to think, and to examine ideas openly and without fear. Any indoctrination effort creates an atmosphere of fear, and it should go no further.
Mr. M.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jane McGrath.
Good evening. My name is Jane McGrath, and I live at 9036 Lockmere Court in District 4. I came to speak tonight to the textbooks in the social studies. I am a parent of a 7th grader at Woodland Middle School. I've spoken with many parents at Woodland Middle School and at the bus stop in different places. We are against the resolution as it is. And because I know, and I've worked with things with my daughter in her social studies classes, her teacher does not only use one textbook, she uses other resources as well, not just one source. When we do research papers, we get more than one source. We are encouraged to find at least 3 sources, if not more, when presenting. As a parent, I want my child to learn about the other nations around the world and their cultures and religions. I want her to be respectful of other people's cultures and religions. But just because we are respectful and learn about the other religions does not mean that we are converting to those religions. It means that we are being kind and disrespectful as Jesus Christ has called us to be. We are a Christian family who have friends who are Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, and many other religions. I've recently had a parent-teacher conference with my daughter's social studies teacher regarding some of the resources, not just the textbook. They do have so many academic standards to cover that they are flying through it very quickly. And it is in my opinion that as they are moving at this rapid rate, I find it difficult that any child could be indoctrinated by learning the basics of those many religions from around the world at such a fast pace. In this process, I've had some great conversations and discussions with my daughter. These are great life lessons to help her understand why we choose to believe the way we do, and possibly why others choose to believe the way they do. As a former PTO president and parent volunteer around the county, I would like to take a moment to speak to the process that curriculum is chosen. It is under my understanding that books are chosen from a set of approved standards from the Tennessee Textbook Commission, vetted by the central office, and parents are asked and encouraged to participate in this process. It is also my understanding that this recent book was approved not 2 years ago, as we have just done currently with the math books. I have had friends who've helped with that. So in short, I'm asking the school board to get back to the more pressing issues concerning our county's substantial growth and overcrowding of our schools, shortage of bus drivers and substitute teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Rebecca. And Rebecca, I'm very sorry, it's in the margin. I can't read your last name. Okay. All right, thank you, ma'am. Then our next speaker is Will Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, thank you for having me. Very briefly, I want to express my relief that this resolution has been pulled, and I want to urge you not to consider resolutions such as this one, which undercut the professional autonomy of your educational leaders in the future. I have a PhD in higher education administration from Stanford University. I can tell you that proposing resolutions like this will result in it being very difficult to attract and retain the very best educators and the very best educational leaders. Please, that's enough. Thank you.
Thank you. That ends the public comments section of our agenda. Our next item is the superintendent's report. Dr. Looney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Good to see you this evening. I'd like to once again thank the 2 police officers that are in the audience doing their duties. We're very blessed and thankful to have you here this evening. I'd like to get on with the superintendent's report, and the first item we'd like to do is recognize the 2 Blue Ribbon School Award winners that we have in the district. So, Mr. Chairman, if you'll join me as Mrs. Birdsong comes forward.
we are going to recognize our blue ribbon schools individually. So first off, if I could ask Dr. LaChance and the crew from Clovercroft to come into the well here. Mr. Anderson, if you'll get that. Ladies, and if we have any gentlemen, if you guys will kind of probably go over this way so we can get your picture. I believe it'll be in, is it November that you guys are going to Washington to receive your official award? But I'm going to take your picture. 1, 2, 3, and one more just for fun, please. 1, 2, 3. We want to say congratulations to Clovercroft Elementary School. And now if I could ask Dr. Vaden and representatives from Ravenwood High School to come forward. Thank you. Applause for Ravenwood as well. And again, Ravenwood folks will be traveling to Washington for the official recognition ceremony in November as well. Everyone get close together. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3, and one more. 1, 2, and 3. Congratulations to our blue ribbon schools. And as Mr. Anderson and Dr. Looney take their seats, we have some other folks we are going to celebrate tonight. If you'll get me back to the start, Mr. McNeese, and we have some athletic state championships to celebrate tonight. Brentwood High School, for the 3rd year in a row, brought home the TAA Championship Trophy. Under the leadership of Coach Barbara Campbell, here are the ladies on the team. Kayla Massey, Anna Wilson, Lil Schwartz, Keely Kaufman, Georgia Cotton, Cameron Carter, Megan Jancy, Garrett Joyner, Logan Eagleston, Tori Carpenter, Aubrey Jancy, Celia Lamb, Andrea Acida, Sydney Rexford, Brianna Uhl, Annalie Wingo, Kaylee Seidel, Ellie Hensley, and Aspirin Martin. Congratulations again, 3 years in a row, folks. And the fellas at Brentwood High School were not to be outdone themselves as they brought home the TSSAA Class 3A Boys Golf State Championship. Their coach is Bud Robinson. The team members are Nash Gilchrist, Lucas Adcock, Trey Tobias, Dabney Dickinson, Eli Sharon, Trevor Johnson, John Tominski, Trenton Johnson, and Ty Craig. So 2 state championship teams out of Brentwood. Let's talk about some staff spotlights next. And we are honoring Mike Morrow from Woodland Middle School. And Mr. Morrow has been named the 2016 Tennessee Business Education Association Secondary Teacher of the Year. Congratulations to Mr. Morrow. And this is Leah White, and she is a Franklin teacher, and she has just been named the 2015 Tennessee Council for Exceptional Children Teacher of the Year. So congratulations to all of our staff members and our students.
Mr. Chairman, just to repeat, that's 2 state championships coming out of Brentwood this board meeting. That's awesome. Glad to hear that. That is 2, Mr. Wembley. Speaking of 2, I would like to call your attention to a handout that you received before we move on. That is a replacement page for page 91. It deals with the new hire rate and the substitute teacher rate. If you look on that page, there are 2 rows that I'd like to call your attention to. The certified substitute teacher rate. If you would just add 5, or I'm sorry, it's changed. So there's a new item, a new number there, and then under certified substitute BS degree or higher, there's a new number there. So those 2 rows have changes. With that being said, my final item for you tonight is I am going to be emailing the board members 2 items of importance, and they relate to the substitute teacher pool and our progress there. You'll get that email tomorrow, and we will also give you an update on the acquisition of additional bus drivers, the progress that we're making there. So you'll be getting an email tomorrow on 2 of those really important matters. That completes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Looney. Any questions for Dr. Looney? Okay, see none. Then I'd like to do the board chairman's report. First thing I do is we have a lot of teachers and principals and assistant principals out in the audience. If y'all could stand for just a minute, let everybody see who's in attendance representing our schools. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here this evening. I'd also like to thank the board members and the staff and the community that came out to the Let's Talk Schools at the schools that we had recently. Those meetings were conducted, and Dr. Looney gave a nice presentation about it and then broke up into individual groups to speak with board members and staff members. I want to thank everyone who was able to come to that and participate. They were very good events. I also want to bring to your attention that we have meetings coming up. We have, of course, the Board Policy Committee meeting on November 2nd at 6 p.m. in the Carolyn Campbell Room, and then our next work session on November 12th, and our next board meeting on November 16th. Does anyone have any questions for me? That's all I have for my report for this evening.
Mr. Chairman, I did fail to mention that we have scheduled a community meeting at the Oakview Elementary School for the potential rezoning of the Dallas Downs area. That's November 5th at 6 p.m. at Oakview in the cafeteria. I apologize for that.
Thank you, Dr. Looney. All right, we are on to new business. Item 3A, Board Policy Revision, first reading. It's on page 85. Dr. Looney.
Mr. Chairman, I do recommend that the board approve this first reading of Policy 4.503.
Anyone like to make a motion on this? Move for Mr. Peterson. Second for Mr. Cash. Any discussion? Okay, I see none. If we're ready to vote then, please record your votes on this for first reading on this policy about parent organizations and booster clubs.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, Board. The next item is item 3B, tenure recommendations of superintendent to the board on page 87 in your packet. Dr. Looney.
Mr. Chairman and board members, it gives me great pleasure to recommend these individuals for tenure in the system. It's important to note that the requirement is that for the last 2 years, these employees have had above average evaluations on their teacher effect data. I do recommend approval.
Okay, Dr. Looney is recommending. Would like to make a motion? We have a motion to approve, and we have a second. Comments, Mr. Gregory.
I actually recognize some names on our tenure list this year. I have nothing against anyone on the list, but I will abstain on this because I do not believe in tenure. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Any other questions? Ms. Curley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I echo Mr. Gregory's sentiments and will also be abstaining again. It's not to be construed as a slight against any one of our teachers, but I do not believe in tenure. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Curley. Any other comments? Okay, I see none. We have a motion and a second. If you go ahead and record your votes.
Your vote is 10 yes, 2 abstain.
Thank you, Board. The next item is classified hiring rates and information technology positions and substitute teachers. Dr. Looney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. The only thing, once again, calling your attention to those 2 rows. I do recommend approval of these modifications to the pay rate for technicians and for substitute teachers.
And do we have a motion on this? Motion to approve, Mr. Peterson. Second. Okay, we have a second for Ms. McGrath. Any questions, Mr. Wimberly?
Dr. Looney, would you please just go over the changes that have been made since we last saw these and the reasons for the changes?
Yes, sir. Thank you for that opportunity. As you know, I was not able to attend the work session due to a pressing family matter. It is my understanding that the board had some really good discussion about whether or not the proposed increase in substitute pay was sufficient. We took that feedback to heart, and therefore I'm recommending an additional $5 per day for the uncertified substitute teacher with a BS degree or higher. So that rate would now be $85 per day. If you work for more than 21 days but less than 50, it would be $90 per day. If you work for more than 50 days, it would be $95 per day. It's important to note that they do not have to be consecutive days. They're cumulative. For certified teachers that wish to substitute teach in our district, and that is often the case, that's how people get into the district as teachers, the rate would be $90 per day for less than 20 days, $95 for 21 to 49 days, and $100 for 50 or more total days.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, sir.
Do you think that these increases will help mitigate our problems with substitutes and being able to keep our substitutes fully engaged in the classrooms?
Mr. Wembley, I hope so. We have 838 active substitute teachers in the district. Of those, 276 happen to be certified substitutes. 451 are bachelor degree or higher. This will obviously increase their pay. It may very well bring more to the table. Most of the unfilled vacancies that we have are actually not classroom teaching spots. They're actually special education teacher assistant spots. And so those are the spots where there's a lot more physical labor involved, and quite frankly, dealing with some challenged behaviors at times. And so I'm not sure whether or not this will get us there. I do know that the bus driver issue, as well as the substitute teacher issue, is not going to go away. It's really about managing the challenge more than it is about solving it, because in the benchmarking consortium districts that we participate in, and when you look at regional data, and Mr. Anderson sent some information to me today about the national bus driver shortage, it's just an ongoing challenge because the labor market is really good. It's a workers market right now. They can get a job anywhere, and so a lot of times the lower wage jobs are getting harder to fill. I think this is going to help. I don't believe it's going to necessarily solve it, but it gives us more tools to work with moving forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Galbraith?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Looney, do you know just approximately, did anybody run the numbers on what the difference in this is going to be, and whether, given that we've had some shortages in substitutes for the first 9 weeks, whether we have enough in the budget that we just be able to absorb it rather than make a budget amendment?
We will not be able to absorb this in the budget. There will be a budget amendment forthcoming probably in the second semester.
Later. Okay,
yes,
that's fine. Do you know any idea on the?
Mrs. Holman may be able to speak to that. Ms. Holman?
Not to a true amount of that, no, because we made this decision this afternoon. I could probably run something and come up with something, send it out to you in the email.
That's fine. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. I have on here, it does say effective November 2015. We'd like to change that to January because of the mechanism behind it to get it all changed.
Okay, we would need an amendment then to this item that we received from Dr. Looney if we're going to do that, to change it, because it says on here November. I think we would need to have an amendment to this to reflect it being December, if that's the will of the board.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Wembley.
Sorry. I was just going to make an amendment to that effect, but.
Okay, let's, Ms. Curley was next, and then we'll come and ask for that. Ms. Curley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question was along the same lines of Mr. Galbraith, and it was the overall budgetary impact. And while we understand there may be a budget amendment coming forth, we did as a board approve $300,000, and while we understand that has apparently been exhausted, it would be good to see and understand how that money was actually utilized and just have a breakdown of that. But then also if there's opportunities within the budget to cover some of these increased costs, so that way we're not taking the full extent of it and asking for more money. If we can look for any options or opportunities to prioritize some of the costing, I think that would be a prudent exercise.
We'll be glad to furnish that information to the board.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mesra.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd I'd like to make a comment, and then I'll make that motion to change the date. I think I was probably the most vociferous proponent for changing the salaries or the wages. And I just wanted to make sure that the administration knows that I have no ill will, or I'm not out to disparage anybody. However, I do want to make it clear that until we have all the classroom positions filled, all teaching positions filled every day, then I think anything less than that is unacceptable, and that we're going to have to strive to have 100% fill on our teachers. I know that's a lot to ask, and I know that some people may think that that is impossible to achieve, but I would like to say that that is exactly what we need if we're going to be number one in the whole country. If we're going to be nationally recognized, we got to have teachers in their places. And so how we do that, I'm just trusting that Dr. Looney and his staff will be able to figure out new strategies, different ways of doing it. I think this board is open to new ideas, and so whatever you want to bring for this board, I'm ready to try anything, whatever it takes to get all of our teachers' positions filled, substitute teachers' positions filled. And along that same lines, the bus drivers. So I just want to make that clear. If I sound like I'm going to be persistent and hounding after this, it has nothing to do with my appreciation for the administration and the work that you all have worked so hard to do. After that, I would like to make a motion to change the date of the substitute teacher pay plan effective January of 2016.
Okay, we have a motion for an amendment to the previous motion. Second from Mr. Galbraith. Okay, Mr. Cash, did you want to speak to the main motion to the amendment?
Yeah, no, I wanted to ask Dr. Looney a question.
Yes, sir, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Looney, how many substitute teachers do we use on a daily basis?
Somewhere in, well, it ranges. Mondays and Fridays are a higher need. We have a J curve that happens in our district. Somewhere in the neighborhood of about 210 on an average day. Jason has data, it looks like. Well, this is annual data, so I can't use that. I don't think this is daily. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 210. I've seen it as high as 260. I've seen it in the 170 range, just depending on what's happening in the district.
So that's about an 8% absenteeism rate, roughly.
Yes, sir. 5 to 8, I would
5
say.
to 8.
On a bad day, it'd be 11. I will say that it's a little bit misleading because when the state implemented RTI, response to intervention, they have a requirement built into RTI that we have data meetings, so teachers get together and they talk about student progress. Well, in order for that to happen during the regular school day, we have to pull those teachers out of rooms. Somebody has to be in the room. So it's not necessarily that the teacher is actually out of the building.
Right.
They're at work. We just have to have somebody else covering the class. And so a lot of the absences that we have honestly aren't people that are technically absent. It's just that the work that is required by higher authority has to go on, and either the teachers are doing that, during the day, or we're keeping them there till 7 o'clock at night. So it's a balancing act. I do appreciate the admonition that we've got to get this better. I agree. I appreciate the challenge and the task. I will tell you, it's in every district I've ever been in, this has always been, bus driving and substitute teachers is always a challenge, but I think the pay raises. Board members, we have substitute training on a regular basis. I'd love to sign you up and let you get your feet wet.
One more question, Dr. Looney. What about retired teachers that actively want to substitute, that are ready to go and pick up where a teacher leaves off, and the students are kept right on track all the way?
Yes, that's a great question. We have a large retiree pool that makes up our substitute teacher pool. So a lot of them are retirees. A lot of them are teachers that aspire to get into the district, so they don't have a job. They're substitute teaching until they can get their foot in the door. A lot of people have degrees. It doesn't happen to be in education, but they're not, they're not working full time. So we have a good mixture of people. Once again, we have over 800 subs. So if you do the math, we have 200 subs absences a day.
Mm-hmm.
We have 4 times as many people signed up to be subs than we do have vacancies. The challenge is, though, many of our subs have a preference in grade or school. I don't want to go to Spring Hill. I want to stay in Nolensville, or the vice versa. So one of the benefits of living in a community like this is people can choose where they're going to work, and we work with them as best we can.
Would a substantial raise for a retired teacher with all the degrees and everything that comes with them, do you think that would encourage them to substitute more? And that'll be my last question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I actually don't think money is the primary issue. I think this right-sizes us as it relates to other districts' compensation for substitute teachers. I really don't think it's a compensation issue. I really think it's a recruitment issue, and us making the work more attractive for them. And that has to do with building relationships with them. It also has to do with our follow-up. We use an automated system to generate subs. So the teacher calls in, I'm going to be out, then the substitute teaching the automated system works. Well, if it doesn't get somebody, then humans have to go back and try to backfill, and I think that might be an area that we can have some improvement on as well. So we're working on it. I look forward to next month's report. I think it will be better than it was this month's, and I do aspire to get to 100% fill rate, and I'll be the first person to call you and ask you to help.
Mr. Gregory.
Just to clarify, when you do call and ask us to help, we'll be doing that without getting paid.
That's correct, sir. That would be volunteer, Tier 3 volunteer work.
Excellent point, Mr. Gregory. Well played. Okay, we have an amendment to the main motion. We have any other discussion about the amendment, which is to change the date from November 2015 to January 2016? Any further discussion on that? Okay, I see none, and then if you'd record your vote to change the date, which is the amendment, please record your vote now.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Okay, then we are now on the amended motion, which is to accept the sheet that was handed out to us with the adjusted pay rates from Dr. Looney. And Dr. Looney, I forgot to ask for your recommendation on that, but I'm assuming since you put it together, that's your recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, that's my recommendation with those 2 changes.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on the main motion as amended? Okay, I see none. If you're ready to record your votes, please do so.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Okay, thank you, Board. Our next item on new business is 3D, Code of Ethics. The information on it is on page 93. The actual Code of Ethics begins on page 95. Do we have a motion on this item on our agenda? Moved by Mr. Hullett. Anyone second that? Second by Mr. Peterson. Any discussion on our Code of Ethics? Okay, I see none, and if you would please record your votes for the code.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Okay, thank you, Board. Which has been a tradition in the district is to ask each board member to read one section out of the Code of Ethics and to sign the document. We have the document here this evening. I guess we'll just start it with Mr. Peterson and work its way around. And Mr. Peterson, if you would start us off by reading the first section, and then we'll go to each board member. We'll take the next one in line so that the public will know what our Code of Ethics says. And anytime you're ready, Mr. Peterson.
Article 1, my relations to our students. Section 1, I will at all times think in terms of students first, always determining other important things according to how they affect the education and development of students.
Section 2, I will seek to provide equal opportunities for all students in academics, the arts, and athletics.
Article 2, my relations with our community. Section 1, I will fairly appraise and support both present and future educational needs.
Section 2, I will represent at all times the entire school community and refuse to represent special interests or partisan politics.
Section 3, I will maintain open lines of communication with the community.
Section 4, I will refrain from using district resources to actively campaign for any candidate for elected office.
Article 3, my relations to our district employees. Section 1, I will support the employment of those persons best qualified to serve in our district.
Section 2, I will strive to secure resources that allow our employees to perform with excellence.
Section 3, I will celebrate employee accomplishments and refrain from public critique.
Article 4, my relations with other board members. Section 1, I will recognize that authority rests only with the board in official meetings and that the individual member has no legal status outside of such meetings.
Section 2, which I don't agree with. I will at all times comply with the Tennessee Open Meetings Act, the Sunshine Law.
Section 3, I will make final decisions only after full discussion of matters at a board meeting.
Section 4, I will respect the opinion of other members and will accept the principle of majority rule.
Section 5, I will attend all regularly scheduled board meetings insofar as possible and become informed concerning the issues to be considered at those meetings.
Section 6, I will work with other board members to establish effective board policies and to delegate authority for the administration of the schools to the superintendent.
Section 7, I will refrain from public critique of fellow board members.
Article 5, my relations with our superintendent. Section 1, I will support full administrative authority as well as responsibility for the superintendent to properly discharge all professional duties.
Section 2, I will support superintendent accountability for working and requiring staff to work within the framework of policies set by the board.
Section 3, I will refer all complaints and concerns to the superintendent.
Section 4, I will refrain from public critique of the superintendent outside board deliberations.
Article 6, my relations to myself. Section 1, I will inform myself about my duties and responsibilities and current educational issues by individual study and through participation in programs providing needed information.
Section 2, I will avoid being placed in a position of conflict of interest.
Section 3, I will refrain from using my position on the board for personal or partisan gain.
Section 4, I will take no action that will compromise the board, the district, or administration.
Section 5, I will respect the confidentiality of information that is privileged under applicable law.
Thank you, board members, for helping us read to the public the Code of Ethics of the Williamson County School Board. And we're ready to move on to our next agenda item, which is budget amendments 1516. Dr. Looney, the first one is Honors Choir.
Mr. Chairman and board members, I recommend the following budget amendment for $14,767.
Okay, do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Hullett.
Second.
Second by Mr. Peterson. Any discussion on this amendment? Okay, I see none, and if we're ready to record our votes, go ahead and record them, please.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, sir. Next item, Dr. Looney, is food service grant.
Mr. Chairman, board members, I recommend a second amendment for $18,000 relating to the Central Cafeteria Fund.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for that? Motion from Dr. Burgos? Second by Ms. Emerson. Any discussion on this item? Ms. Curley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as the district accepts this particular grant, what are the expectations of the district as far as any type of requirements that be met, or the implications of accepting this grant?
Yes, ma'am. As in the case when we accept any federal dollars, we're agreeing to adhere to the federal statutes, rules, and regulations that deal specifically with Central Cafeteria funds. So there's a very exhaustive list. We already are required to follow those. This does not add any additional burdens.
So no additional
No.
impact as far as any requirements from the federal or
Not
state
that I'm
government?
aware of, no, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion on this one? Okay, I see none, and if you're ready to record your votes on this one, please do so.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, our next item is 2015-16 budget resolution, startup costs for new schools on page 103. Dr. Looney?
Mr. Chairman and board members, I had the pleasure of visiting the construction sites this past weekend. Construction is going very, very well. This funding resolution relates to funding the startup costs for the new schools, the two new schools that are going to be opening soon. I guess technically it's two buildings, 3 schools. I do recommend approval.
Okay, do we have a motion for this one? Motion from Ms. Emerson. A second by Mr. Cash. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Ms. McGrath.
I just wanted to thank the new principals for these to attend the Williamson Inc. Chamber of Commerce event in Nolensville the week before last, where the 3 of them were on a panel with the community and was blown away by what this money is going to be funding. There's really exciting stuff, and I'm really jealous of those kids and what they're going to be receiving. So I just wanted to go on record and thank you guys for what you're doing.
Thank you. Any other discussion or comments? Okay, I see none. If you're ready to record your votes then, please do so at this time.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. The next item is additional early childhood classroom on page 105. Dr. Looney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. I do recommend approval of the $368,753. As you can see, some of it comes from the special education grant, and the balance of it comes from the unappropriated fund balance. I do recommend approval.
Okay, do we have a motion on this? Motion to approve by Mr. Wimberly. Second by Mr. Hullett. Any comments or discussion? Ms. Curley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was recently some articles that were published about the Vanderbilt pre-K study, and it found that some of the benefits of pre-K were in fact lacking. So as we look at pre-K expenditures and allocations moving forward, and also trying to balance growth, the more space we dedicate certainly to pre-K, the more that takes away space. So my question is, how is the board or how is the administration reconciling the results of this study with the direction of pre-K?
It's a great question. This funding resolution actually relates to students with special needs. We're required under federal law to provide services to those students beginning at age 3. And so the pre-K program is a separate program This specifically deals with students with with disabilities.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Okay, I see none. Then if you'd record your votes at this time, please.
Your vote is 12 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, Board. That ends the agenda items that we have for the board meeting this evening. Dr. Looney, any final comments?
Roll Tide.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Call on you.